this is nothing but God, because how I go from just yesterday, I was in college crying out to God, like, God, please provide a way out. I don't want to be here. I'm depressed. You feel me? But I'm like still showing up because this is what I got to do, right? I'm just like, God, please, like, you know, I discovered this passion for rapping. This is what I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, I just need a break. I just need a break. I don't want to do this school stuff. Like, please give me a way out. To know that I was praying those type of prayers. I was just in college, and now I'm on a flight to LA. I'm not paying out of pocket for a thing. They're paying me to show up. And this is also my first time ever in LA at this point. And so it was just one of those type of moments where I'm just like, I know God is real. Because, girl, what? You being in this room with these people, you having an opportunity this big and this early in your career of being an independent artist, like, that was nothing but God.
I've been hurting, but with purpose. I've been working on myself. I've been looking in the mirror like queen, ain't nobody else. Better than you, hotter than you, better than you, hotter than you, better than you, hotter than you. Girl, you top two, and you not two.
Ken folk, what is good? It's your girl Ken, and I welcome you again to another episode of the Keys and Seeds podcast. Whether this is your first time here or not, I am happy to have you here. This is episode 31, and I am excited for this episode. I'm excited for every episode, but I am excited for this episode in particular because I am finally sharing with you all in totality, in my words, from my perspective, what my experience being a part of Rhythm and Flow on Netflix was like. I was a part of the inaugural season of the show, which debuted in 2019. It's now 2024, and they are, at the time of this recording, they are about to debut season 2. At the time of the release, season 2, I think, will already be out. And because it's been a long time coming, right, I felt like this was the perfect time for me to do a podcast episode about this, because I've talked about it here and there on social media, and even though this was an experience that I had that was years removed from now, it's still something that people ask me about, and I haven't gone on record and formally shared the totality of my experience. Like, you cannot go online and find out what the totality of the experience was like for me. So I actually haven't had the opportunity. I mean, I've had the opportunity, but I just haven't actually sat down and talked about it yet. And like I said, people still ask me about it, and I'm kind of in this place where I'm like, I want to talk about it because I haven't talked about it, but I also want to talk about it because I want to talk about it and be done with it. But also, too, because on this podcast, I share with you all my journey of growing in my faith, right? I also, too, have had this thought of knowing that I want to formally share with you all my testimony, you know, in totality. And the story that I will be sharing with you all in this episode is essentially a part of that. So I've shared bits and pieces of my testimony. People have seen, you know, from afar, different things that I've had, you know, the opportunity to, you know, experience. But again, I haven't formally sat down and shared with you all the totality of what that experience was like for me. And so I'm excited to just take the time to reflect on where I was at that point in my life and share with you all what you guys didn't see, because a very small piece of what that experience was for me was what was actually shown on Netflix. And so from there, people only know what they saw. People only know what they asked me about, you know, personally. But again, I haven't taken the time to actually sit and talk about it. And so I'm excited to do that. And so I'm going to try to keep it concise, but of course I'm going to try to actually include important details, because there was a whole process that took place before I actually got in front of the judges that I auditioned for, right? So boom, I started rapping in April of 2018. I found out about this opportunity to be a part of the show October of 2018. At the time that I found out about this opportunity to audition to be a part of this show, ironically, someone had tagged me in a post that Chance the Rapper had made on Instagram. Essentially, Chance the Rapper was announcing his participation in this show and essentially sharing on his platform that they were taking submissions to audition to be a part of this show. And because I had just started rapping, right, and I was building a buzz for myself fairly quickly, right? So very quickly, I became known as a rapper, even though I had just started rapping April, May, June, July, August, September, October. I had just started rapping 6 months prior, right? But to also give context to where I was at that point in my life, I was a junior in college. I was a junior at Ball State University. I was knee deep in being a college student. I had one more year until it was time for me to graduate, y'all. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I rap, you know, I'm a rap, you know, here and there at these open mics on campus, and, you know, on the weekend that I'm back home, you feel me? Yeah, I'll do a show, right? Because I was getting booked for shows and things like that fairly quickly, but at the same time, I'm a college student, right? College for me at that time was my main priority. Like, music was what I was passionate about and I wanted to really take serious, but in my mind, I'm like, I'm not about to really like lock in and take risks on pursuing music until college is out the way. So my mind at that time was, I'm a college student who just so happens to rap. So when I found out about this opportunity, I'm like, oh, this is dope. But immediately, like, I had kind of just brushed it off because I'm like, realistically, I'm not finna do this. I'm in college, you feel me? But I'm also too thinking, this is a moment to be on TV. And we all know that, you know, TV, it can be scripted and you feel me? So I'm also thinking too, like, this is probably just an illusion that they're presenting. Whole time, they already got who they want to be a part of the show. So I remember when I initially found out about the opportunity to submit an audition for, you know, to be on the show, immediately I had kind of just brushed it off. Like, I had thanked who tagged me, you know, in the post. Ironically, it was Chance the Rapper who made the post. If you know, you know. I had thanked them, you know, like, hey, you know, right on for letting me know, but I'm like, I'm not finna do this. But mind you, because I rap, you know, and I have peers now who rap, I had a homie who rap, and I knew he probably was, you know, at a job that he didn't want to be at. He wasn't in school, so I'm like, he probably got, you know, a little bit more flexibility and freedom. So I remember I had passed on the opportunity to my homie. I'm like, hey bro, you should do this. He like, hey, right on, like, this is dope, you feel me? Like, and he from Atlanta, so he like, T.I. finna be a judge, like, he hype. So I ain't even say, like, if you don't know, the judges for the inaugural season of Rhythm and Flow on Netflix, the judges were T.I., Cardi B, Chance the Rapper, and it was a guest celebrity judge that differed depending on the city that you auditioned in, and I'll get into that later. But yeah, so I had a homie that was in Atlanta. He like, oh, T.I. judge, you feel me? He hyped. So now he asking me, he like, you finna do it too? I'm like, nah, like, I got finals, you feel me? Like, no, I'm knee deep in being a college student. I'm not finna do that. But I never forget, it was one night where, and mind you too, like, because it's a production for a TV show, right? And mind you, you also got to think about the fact that it's probably going to be hella people submitting, you know, auditions. I remember the window to submit an audition, it was a very small window of time. I think it was only open for maybe like a week. So I remember like maybe like a day or two had passed. Mind you, I'm still not thinking nothing of it. But I remember it was one night I was in the library. If you know, you know, I was in Bracken. And it was one of them nights where I knew I was going to be locked in at the library, like late night. It was one of them type nights. And so I remember it was already like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And if you know, when you study and you've been studying for so long, your brain is like, okay, we need a break. Like I was over studying. I was in the library and I was supposed to be studying, but I'm like, you know what? I'm trying to distract myself with something else right now, And so I remember the thought of applying to be on the show had came to mind. And in my mind, I'm like, why would I fill this out when I know you feel me? Like I'm a college student. I'm not finna go do that for real. And then they probably already got who they want to be a part of the show. I'm not finna spend my time filling this out. But y'all, I was bored. And I'm realizing too at the time it was God, because I also too was just like, I need to fill this out. You feel me? Like, girl, like, you don't feel like studying. At that time, like, I also was like super depressed, and I was asking God, I'm like, God, please. Like I didn't see it happening realistically, because in my mind, I'm like, I just got to do what I got to do. But I'm like, God, please give me a way out. Like, I was just going through school because I felt like that's what I had to do. But that wasn't really where I wanted to be. Like, I was so depressed, y'all. And so I really felt like it was God, pushing me. Like, girl, you don't even got nothing to lose. You don't even want to be here, So I was like, okay, let me go see what this application talking about. Y'all, I click on the application to submit, to, possibly be a part of this show. It's question after question after question after question that's wanting you to respond, essentially in essay format. They asking me hella questions, and they like provide at least 2 to 3 4 sentences for each question. So immediately I'm looking at the form. I'm thinking y'all probably gonna ask me for some, you feel me, some links, to my music. No, they asking me questions, and it's like essay, like open-ended essay format type questions. And so at the time, mind you, I'm a college student, y'all. I'm like, I write enough essays, bruh. Like, in the form, it was so long. I'm like, whole time, y'all probably weeding out hella people that's not even serious, because you really had to take your time to answer every last question that was on that form. I remember it was just questions like, how did you start rapping? How did you come up with your artist name? What inspires you as a rapper? What are your goals? Like, it's just question after question that's open-ended essay format response type questions. So I'm like, bro, I'm a college student. Like, I went from not wanting to write an essay to now y'all asking me essentially to write an essay. Like, but I was bored. I'm like, I'd rather respond to these questions than, you feel me, do the homework that I actually got to do. So I remember I really sat there and I took the time to fill out the form. And I kid y'all not, because I initially, I feel like I said that weird the first time. Because I initially blew off, the opportunity when I had first heard about it, I didn't even pay attention to when the submissions were going to close. I had no idea, when they were going to stop taking submissions. I just remember I was bored in the library, and I'm like, let me just fill this out. Really still at this point not thinking nothing of it for real. I remember I get to the end of submitting the form. After submitting, and they're saying, thank you. If we're interested, we'll be in touch, whoop. Literally, at the end of submitting that form, I had saw in fine print that I had submitted a form right before they were about to close the window to take applications. Like, it was about to close maybe like 20 or 30 minutes. Because mind you, it's late night, I'm in the library, and that was the last night that they were taking submissions, y'all. Tell me that's not God. So boom, after I submitted the application and I realized that was the last night to submit the application, I had texted my homie who I had told about the opportunity. I'm like, did you submit an application? Because tonight was the last night to submit one, and I didn't know that until just now, because I did end up submitting the application. And he like, yeah, I had been submitted. Like, I submitted it when you first told me about it. And I was like, type, all right, well, I did it too. So I guess we both now waiting. So from there, I remember it was maybe like 2 or 3 weeks later. I remember, because, it's a TV production, right? Like, there was a whole process that took place before we actually got in front of the judges, but I can imagine that they were still, you know, on a time crunch of, okay, like we gotta move this along, right? So I remember it was maybe like, you know, a few days where I didn't hear anything, but like overall, the process of me going through the process that I went through before getting in front of the judges, it was like everything kind of happened back to back once I like zoomed out and like looked at it. So I feel like in the moment, like it felt like significant time had passed, but in reality it probably was only maybe like two or three weeks. So I remember immediately after that, you know, within that window of time, I had got an email and they were like, so the initial like submission to be a part of the show, it was me answering a bunch of essay questions, and then they wanted a link to my socials, and you know, they wanted examples of, you know, past performances essentially. So from there, after they reached back out, they were like, okay, we want you to submit a formal audition tape, get on camera, introduce who you are. I remember it was like maybe 2 or 3 specific questions that they wanted me to answer on camera, and then they wanted me to do a 16-bar a cappella. And I remember when I got this email, I was like feeling like a little bit like, okay, maybe this is a real thing, you know? Because if y'all wasn't actually like scouting for people, y'all wouldn't even be, you feel me? Like y'all wouldn't, I don't know. In my head, I just was like, okay, so maybe they might actually be scouting people. Mind you, I'm thinking it's TV, y'all already got who y'all want. I'm not finna do this, but I did it, you feel me? Just for fun, just because I was in the library board. Whole time they reached back out maybe like 2-3 weeks later, they're like, okay, boom, we want you to submit a formal audition video. I'm like, okay, no problem. But I remember like the turnaround time was I had to submit it, I think maybe like in 48 hours. Mind you, I'm a college student, y'all. So I'm like, bro, like I got class, I got homework, and y'all want this in 48 hours. Mind you too, they also were like, it can't be longer than a minute and I think like 30 seconds or something. But I'm like, y'all want me to introduce myself, y'all want me to answer these questions, and then y'all also want me to rap. And if it's anything longer than what y'all want, you know, the video limit to be, y'all not opening it. So I'm also like, okay, I gotta find time to record this video before, you know, it's too late to submit the video. But then I'm also in the moment restarting the video, and I'm doing multiple takes because it can't be longer than, you know, a minute in however long they said it had to be. So also too, I'm like, okay, as I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, if they wanted me to submit a formal audition video, okay, maybe this is kind of getting real. And so, mind you, I also submitted this form with my homie. So I had hit him, I said, did they email you? He talking about some, nah. I'm like, so now I'm kind of feeling like, shoot, like, did they pick me and not pick him? You know, but I'm also kind of like, you know, maybe they'll, you know, send you an email, you know, within the next few hours. Like, maybe they still reaching out to people. But I had told him, like, yeah, they reached out to me. They want me to now submit a formal audition video. And he's like, oh, that's, you know, that's dope. That's what's up. And I believe he, you know, genuinely, you know, was happy for me. But I did kind of feel like, dang, like, whole time, you feel me, I had told him about this opportunity. I'm not really thinking much of it for real. Whole time now I'm the one that's actually going through the process, and without who I told the opportunity about too. So I'm like, dang, okay, now I'm kind of feeling bad, but I'm also like, okay, it's kind of getting serious. So I submit the audition video. I remember, again, it was maybe like a 2-3 week wait. So at this point, it's like November going into December. And they told me that they, you know, saw the audition tape. They wanted me to submit the audition tape through an unlisted YouTube link. You know how you can upload some on YouTube and then like send them the link? Like, I saw that it was like multiple views on the YouTube video. So I'm like, okay, someone that's not me who has this link, like they actually took the time to like watch this video. So I remember I received another email like some time after that, and they were like, okay, we're gonna send you, you know, a pack of beats to choose from. Mind you, this is TV, so you got to think about copyright and, you know, all of that. So this is also to answer the question of people thinking that I got on that show and I auditioned with a song that I wrote. I had to choose from a set of beats that I myself as an artist would not choose ever, right? They gave me a list of beats and I had to choose which one I wanted to write a quick, you know, 1 minute, you know, verse to, you know, like an Instagram freestyle. So I'm like, man, I wouldn't choose any of these beats for myself, right? So I'm like, dang, but I gotta make it work. So I couldn't just get on there and audition with a song that I had. A few people have asked me like, oh, like, why didn't you go on there and perform? You should have got on there and showed them, and I'm like, y'all, it's TV, you feel me? I had a set of beats to choose from. I chose which one I wanted to rap to. That was that. So now at this point too, my homie, he been stopped getting emails, right? And now I'm having actual conversations with producers of the show, and they're wanting to know, you know, like, as we're moving you along through this process, like, is this what you really want to do? Like, can you really commit to this, you know? Because now, like, the deadlines are like back to back to back. Like, they send me a pack of beats and then they were like, okay, we want to hear, you know, what you would rap in response to, you know, one of these beats. And I remember, like, at that point, it was like someone was calling me the next day. They wanted to hear within 48 hours what I would have to that. And so it then got to the point where I was like, okay, this is really kind of getting serious, right? Like, producers is calling me, asking me to FaceTime. They want to see, you know, different outfit choices. You know, of course, they're reminding me that, you know, I need to stay away from logos. They're just like, okay, so when you get in front of these judges, when you get on these cameras, like, what are you going to wear, right? So they're giving different suggestions, like, maybe you shouldn't wear this, maybe. Whole time too, no one knows other than my homie that I'm even going through this process. I'm still showing up to class like I'm a college student. I'm just the girl. Whole time you got Netflix producers calling you like, yeah, so, you know, you're gonna hear back from us, and, you know, we're gonna fly you out to LA and da-da-da. So once it really started to get real, y'all, I was like, dude, I gotta tell somebody. They're like, you know, of course it's, you know, an NDA type situation, but I'm like, I'm in school, you feel me? Like, I gotta tell my mama, like, I gotta tell my manager. I ain't tell nobody, y'all, cause mind you, I'm filling this out because I'm bored. I'm not really thinking much is gonna come from it. And I also too was like, well, I don't want to say something prematurely and then they don't actually, you know, reach back out to me. Whole time though, it was like things were happening so quick, and I'm also still going to class and I'm doing my assignments, and you feel me? I didn't even have a chance for real to like really tell my manager and like my mom and people like, hey, so I did this thing, and yeah, now I'm in a position where I'm gonna have to drop out. So they were like, okay, we're gonna give you maybe like 2-3 weeks. So at this time, it was like early December. They were like, we're going to reach back out to you, you know, at the top of the year. So I don't know if they were like trying to finalize things on their end or what, but I remember significant time had passed before I had even heard from another producer. And so I'm like, okay, y'all wouldn't have reached out to me and, you know, had all these different conversations if I wasn't going to be the one picked to go and audition for the judges. And so I remember it was almost like a month before I heard something, y'all. And at this point, I still didn't tell anybody. Because I'm like, it's not gonna be real until y'all send me information showing me that y'all booked a flight and y'all giving me dates. Because at this point, I'm still just having conversations with people, right? But they were also too putting it in my head that, you know, they were having conversations with, you know, different people, and, you know, anything can change at any moment. You know, the producers can decide to go with someone else. Like, you know, at this time, still don't say anything, you know, don't say anything at all, right? But like, you know, even though we're having conversations with you, like, you could very quickly be someone who we're no longer having conversations with for, you know, whatever reason, because they want to go with someone else instead. So I'm like, okay, at this point, I'm still not telling nobody. I think maybe like a month went by. They told me that I could They told me I would hear something by New Year's. I would hear something by January. And New Year's rolls around. I don't hear nothing. January 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. I'm not hearing nothing. But y'all, I think it was maybe like the 10th or the 10th. I don't know. It was like early January. So mind you, they told me I would hear something by New Year's if I would be selected to be one of the contestants to actually audition in front of the judges, right? And New Year's rolled around, I didn't hear nothing. So I was like, dang, like, I guess they didn't choose me, right? So at this point, I'm still, going about being a college student. I'm just a girl. The whole time, though, they reached out to me after New Year's. It's like early January. They're like, yeah, so you've been selected to be one of the, potential, contestants to audition in front of the judges. This is when we need you to be in LA. Please let us know if you need to be accommodated. We will pay for an Uber to the airport. We will pay for your flights. You will receive a stipend for being a part. We just need you there for these dates, essentially. So I was like, it's getting serious. So now I'm like, or no, I think like right before New Year's. I feel like at that point, even though they said to not say anything to anyone, I kind of was like, ain't no way I just went through all of this and y'all not about to reach back out to me, right? So I think at that point I did tell my manager, who was my uncle at the time. My uncle who was my manager at the time. I had told him, and I'm like, hey, so I did this thing, I'm, still waiting for, confirmation and, details, but like, I know that, once they reach back out, things are gonna, move pretty quickly. I ain't said nothing to my mama, like, you feel me? Can you kind of, be the middleman? Because I'm like shaking in my boots for real. You feel me? Because I'm like, I'm in school. Y'all know how parents are sometimes. It's like, girl, what? You finna go, what? What? You finna drop out and what? Right? So I did not tell my mama. I'm scared to tell my mama. So I tell my uncle, who was my manager at the time, he tells my aunt. And so she then tells my mom. And so it then becomes this whole conversation of, girl, so you did what? And what happened? And so it's just a family thing right now. These are the only people who know. I'm like, I'm only telling you because if these people call me back and tell me to be on a flight, I'm going to be on a flight. I don't even want to be in school for real, So I'm like, I don't want to drop out and disappoint my mom and, but I'm like, I got to have this conversation. So a conversation was had. She kind of already knew what was up, right? But mind you, we're still waiting for New Year's to roll around. We still don't even know whether or not I'm going to actually be on this flight. So New Year's rolls around. They like, did they reach back out? And I'm like, nah. And, they can tell that I'm kind of like down and, disappointed. And I'm like, what's crazy is I went from really not caring to now I'm like, now I'm invested, right? So New Year's rolls around, they ain't called me. I'm like feeling some type of way. So I'm like, dang, like, thought I had it. Thought I was, this close to a once in a lifetime opportunity, whatever. So mind you, like I said, New Year's rolls around. I don't hear nothing. But like early January, they're like, our apologies, for the delayed, response, communication, whatever, it just took some time to, finalize things on our end and, woo. But yeah, we trying to fly you to LA, basically. So because of the time that they wanted me in LA, it then put me in this position where I'm going to have to withdraw from my classes because I can't just go a week without being, not in class because they wanted me out there for a week. But they were saying if the judges give you a yes, prepare to be out there longer. But they wanted me out there for at least a week. I had to be out there for a week. So I'm like, okay, I can't just go a week of not being in class. And then too, oh my gosh, at this point I had just got into the program that I had applied to be in at school because I had kept changing my major. But Ball State is known for their TCOM program, and it was a wait list, y'all. I was on this wait list for a good little minute, Then I had got accepted to actually be a part of the program, and the moment I got accepted into this program, and this was the beginning of the semester. Mind you, like I said, this is January, so this is after winter break. This is the next semester. I had just started that semester. I had just got into that program, and I'm now like, I gotta withdraw from these classes. So sick. And they had stressed too how important the attendance and all of that was. So I'm like, I can't just go a week of not being in class. So long story short, I withdrew from the classes, flew to LA, and I'm like, this is really happening. Grew up in church, and so I've always known that there's a God, but at that time I was not as locked in with God as I now am, right? And so I just remember at that time, like, even though I didn't know God as much as I do now, as well as I do now, as intimately as I know now, I'm like, this is nothing but God. This is nothing but God. Because how I go from just yesterday, I was in college crying out to God, like, God, please provide a way out. I don't want to be here. I'm depressed. You feel me? But I'm like still showing up because this is what I got to do, right? I'm just like, God, please, like, you know, I discovered this passion for rapping. This is what I want to do. You know what I mean? Like, I just need a break. I just need a break. I just need a break. I don't want to do this school stuff. Like, please give me a way out. To know that I was praying those type of prayers. I was just in college, and now I'm on a flight to LA. I'm not paying out of pocket for a thing. They're paying me to show up. And this is also my first time ever in LA at this point. And so it was just one of those type of moments where I'm just like, I know God is real. Because, girl, what? You being in this room with these people, you having an opportunity this big and this early in your career of being an independent artist, like, that was nothing but God. And so I remember when I had got in, you know, the rooms of, you know, just being with the different artists. Mind you, they had auditions for this show in multiple different cities. And one of the cities that they had auditions in was Chicago. I'm from Indy. Chicago is down the street. In my mind, I'm like, why didn't y'all send me to Chicago? Right? But I'm like, I'm not complaining. I ain't gonna put a question mark where God put a period. God clearly wanted me to experience being in LA for the first time. And, you know, like, regardless of how that situation panned out, I literally got from that moment, God is real. My dreams are within reach, and this is merely just confirmation that I'm on the right path, because like I said, I had just started rapping, y'all. So I remember I'm in these rooms, you know, rubbing elbows with, you know, the different artists that's also auditioning. And mind you, because we're in LA, majority of the artists in the room were from LA, from Vegas, you know, surrounding areas. So they all, you know, just chopping it up on some, you know, hey, what school did you go to? You know, so they all kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I got people from Vegas. You know, I'm the oddball out. Whole time too, I'm also nervous, y'all. Because even though, you know, we in these rooms and, you know, we're able to network with each other or whatever, we also got to pay attention to these producers that keep popping in and out of the room, letting us know who's on stage next, who's on deck. You know, I'm just sitting here like, I just started rapping yesterday. Ain't no way I'm even here right now, right? Like, at that time too, like, my self-esteem was something that I was still working through. And so I'm also feeling like, there's artists that's been putting in work for years. Like, I'm literally like thinking to myself, like, I know I deserve to be in this room, but I'm like trying to convince myself of that. So I remember I was just kind of just quiet and I was observing, and I'm also too just nervous. I'm just like, act normal, right? So I'm not saying nothing. I'm just observing, right? Whole time too, I'm like, I'm also the eyeball, because everybody here from LA and, you know, surrounding areas, they all chopping it up on some like, oh, you went to that school? I did too. I ain't even know you. You know, they having these type conversations. I'm like, I'm not even from here. So eventually the conversation gets to me and they like, Ken, where you from? I'm like, I'm from Indianapolis. Mind you, I'm not saying nothing because I'm nervous. I'm like, I'm just memorizing what it is I got to say on this stage in front of these judges, so I'm not embarrassing myself on TV. Right? I'm like, in my head, act normal. But I'm also too like, I'm not from here. So, you feel me? But eventually, they notice, you feel me? I'm not saying nothing. They like, Ken, where you from? because I had told them at the time my name was ameriKKKen, y'all. I also did not say that. So my artist name now is Kyndl, but at the time it was ameriKKKen. So I'm introducing myself. I'm like, yeah, I'm ameriKKKen, but you can just call me Ken. So they're like, Ken, where you from? Some where you from, homie? Like, they're like, Ken, where you from? I'm like, I ain't even from here. I said, or from around here. I said, I'm from Indianapolis. They like, Indianapolis? Where is that at? And what's so funny is whenever people who are not from Indianapolis or like from the Midwest, like more often than not, people be like, where is that at? And I'm like, is that a real question? Like, Indiana is in Indianapolis, but in real life, people be getting it confused with Minneapolis. So they like, where is that at? I'm like, Indiana. They like, didn't they have auditions in Chicago? Like, how'd you end up all the way out here? I'm like, God, literally God. I said I didn't have no say so. I had the same question. So I just remember they were like, what sports teams y'all got? I'm like, the Colts, the Pacers, they trying to like, Indiana, like what? I'm like, it's right by Chicago. So it was some people that was like, oh yeah, I know where that is. And it was other people who, they saw LA, they like, where is that at? So I'm like, child. So anywho, I also remember too, at this time, I had met D Smoke. At that time, I did not know that D Smoke is Sir's brother. But I remember I was thinking to myself, I'm like, he looked like Sir. Like, he looked like he could be related to Sir. Like, he looked like he could be Sir's brother. I had these thoughts. But mind you, in my head, I'm like, I'm nervous. I ain't from around here. Just act normal. Just act normal. Right? So I'm thinking that, but I ain't say that. I remember at one point, other people, they was like, hey bro, you look like Sir. You Sir brother, you related to Sir? Whole time in my head, I'm like, we are in LA. So I'm like, it's not too far-fetched that, that could be his people, right? Like TDE, you feel me, is based out here. So I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm pretty sure, that's Sir's brother. Also too, like, I wasn't as tapped in with my discernment at the time, but I knew like my discernment was still a thing. So I'm like, it was just this knowing of like, you got TDE ties. Like, why are you here? You know what I mean? Like, I was thinking this to myself. I'm like, I don't even know if this is brother for real, but like, you can't tell me it's not. And he just had this aura, this, just this presence, so it kind of was like weird that it was like this foreshadowing. Yeah, he finna win the show. Right? Like, you finna win the show. We just here as paid actors. Like, you know what I mean? But like, I remember other people that was like, yeah, bro, you look like Sir. Like, and I just remember he just kept laughing it off. And he just like, yeah, I get that a lot. But, I'm me. I just remember he just kept laughing it off. He never confirmed or denied. So, long story short, it's, different scenes that they're trying to film, with us, being grouped together on the same couch, just having conversations. So, there was a scene here and there that you saw on the show that I was in, right? So that's kind of like just what that was. But it really was just conversations and producers finding moments to, film. But we're all just sitting around waiting to go on stage next to audition. And I remember as we were, sitting back waiting, they was like, who y'all think the guest judge finna be? And somebody was like, I was walking around and I saw Snoop. Snoop was smoking with somebody. I saw Snoop. And it was a few people that was like, yeah, I saw Snoop too. And somebody was like, I ain't see him, but I mean, we are in LA, so hey, you feel me? Like, I'm gonna get on stage, I'm gonna tell them to roll up with me after I get off stage. Like, everybody's like, man, like, I'm hyped, you feel me? Like, we finna go perform in front of Cardi B, T.I., Chance the Rapper, and Snoop there. Like, everybody lit whole time. I'm like, still like, big-eyed. I'm like, I had just started rapping. I'm in college trying to find myself. I'm just like, I'm just grateful to be here, right? So I'm like stupid nervous. So eventually it was my time to go on stage. I introduced myself. I spit what I had. This is the part they did show y'all. So immediately after I was done auditioning, right? Cardi B was the first person to speak. She said, I'm sorry, but I didn't hear a word you said. So, of course, the crowd, I feel like that kind of just set the tone. The crowd is immediately dying laughing. They like, oh, she ain't hear nothing she said. So I'm like, low-key in the moment, I'm like, what you mean you ain't heard nothing I said? Like, the mic was on. I'm like, I ain't get on here mumbling. Like, what you mean you ain't hear nothing I said? So in that moment, I kind of was confused on what she meant by that, but that's all she said. So, but mind you too, before she had even spoke, after I was done performing, the judges initially kind of like looked at each other like, who want to go first? But I'm assuming because, you know, I'm a woman, everybody looked at Cardi, and Cardi was like, okay. She like, I'm sorry, but I didn't hear nothing you said. So I kind of was offended too, because I'm like, was you just not listening or paying attention? I'm like confused on like what she meant by she didn't hear nothing I said. So after she said that and that's all she said, Tip was like, I heard every word you said. I just think that you could have benefited from a better flow or a better delivery, because essentially what they were getting at was a lot of rappers, especially when they find themselves in moments of, okay, boom, I gotta prove myself as a rapper, they think they just gotta start rapping fast. And I'm not even a rapper that rap fast, but my process of thinking was, one, when y'all gave me these beats that I really wasn't too fond of, the beat that I felt drawn to was the one that was a bit more fast paced. And I rap for real, so I can get in any flow, I can get in any pocket. And so I'm like, you know, I tend to go for, you know, slower, you know, melodic, you know, lo-fi, you know, type beats. But I'm in my head, I'm like, I'm finna be on TV, you feel me? Like, let me still be me, you feel me, and pop it, but like, let me bring some energy, you feel me? Like, that was my mindset. I'm like, I'm still wanting to be mindful of the fact that I want to bring some energy. So I was kind of, you know, rapping fast, but I'm feeling myself. I'm confident. You feel me? I'm in them pockets. You feel me? So for her to say she ain't hear nothing I said, I'm like, I wasn't even rapping that fast. So Tip was like, I heard every word you said. I just feel that you could have benefited from a different flow, a different, you know, delivery. It gave, you know, I'm coming on here and I feel like I got to prove myself in a different way. But he's like, just be you, shorty. Like, you know, like, just be you. But he like, you know, I respect it though, because I heard what you said and, you know, you was talking that talk. So Tip did, you know, say like, I heard what you said. I heard that there was a message, you know, I respected it. I just think that, you know, you may have kind of got on here feeling like you had to, you know, be a different version of you. And so, and he was essentially saying like, you know, you don't have to do that. You know, just be comfortable with just showing up as who you are. You know, I respected what he was, you know, getting at, but I'm like, I showed up being who I am, but I digress. So immediately after he had said that, Cardi then was like, I just want to clear up, like, it's not that I didn't hear what you said. Like, I heard like bits and pieces of what you said. It was just like, yeah, like you kind of just was just rapping fast, right? Like, I don't know, like I don't know, it was just kind of like just hard to keep up with. And I'm like, I was not rapping that fast. But Tip was like, it wasn't, he was like, I get what Cardi is saying, right? Like you was kind of, you feel me, in that pocket. But he was like, I heard you. He said, I heard you. I just think you would have benefited from a different delivery. And then they also commented on my breath control. They were like, we can tell, you know, you kind of was, you know, out of breath a little bit. And I mean, I was only out of breath like towards the end, but mind you too, I'm like, it's adrenaline, bro. But I'm like, I was not rapping that fast, but I digress. So that's kind of what they had like went back and forth about. Cardi was like, I'm sorry, like, just to clear it up, like, I was listening, like, I heard you kind of just was rapping fast, girl. It was hard to keep up, you know. Y'all know how Cardi is. So she's like, you know, jokingly trying to say like, girl, I was just over here dizzy, like, girl, you was going and you know, I heard, you know, bits and pieces of it, but I didn't really hear what you was saying, and I wanted to actually hear what you was saying, but I couldn't keep up. So from there, she was like, but, you know, you're very beautiful. I can tell you're very talented. You know, I can tell that you were nervous. She's like, you know, I think you just need some more work, you know, but, you know, like, we'll talk. She's like, we'll talk. DM me, we'll talk. I vividly remember her saying that. She's like, you know, as a woman, you know, it's hard, you know, they want to kick us out, you know, before we even get a foot in the door, you know, but she essentially was like, you know, just spend some more time just figuring out who you are, and, you know, like, you got it, basically. And Tip was like, yeah, you got it. I could tell like the energy from Tip was like, I see you and I respect it. But not everybody is going to initially get it, especially if you aren't showing up fully as who you are. So they more so was like, don't get on the platform and think you got to show up in a particular way just because you on TV or, you know, whatever the case may be. And I'm like, I mean, I get what y'all saying, but I really feel like I was being myself. So then, boom, it gets to Chance. He looks down at, you know, the card, the paper or whatever with my name on it. He's like, so your name is American with 3 Ks. And this is the part that they clipped. This is the part that they clipped, y'all. So now the conversation of me being on this show since it has debuted is I'm a joke. And in that moment, I was like, okay, I see where you're trying to go with this, because immediately the live studio audience, right? So that's also why I'm nervous. Like, I'm nervous because I'm in front of these celebrity judges. You feel me? I got these Netflix producers. It's cameras in my face. It's a live audience. Like, these people don't know me. So now we get to Chance and you trying to make a mockery or a joke out of my artist name. He's like, so your name is American with 3 Ks. He looks up at me and I'm like, yeah, knowledge and kindness is key. Mind you too, in this moment, the moment Cardi opened her mouth and said she didn't hear nothing I said, oh, it's finna be a no. So I'm already like, you feel me, holding back tears, feeling some type of way. I'm like, bro, I dropped out of school for this. Y'all playing in my face. You feel me? So when it gets to Chance, I'm already feeling like, and then too, because Cardi and Tip, they were like, we just feel like you wasn't being yourself all the way. And I'm like, where are y'all getting this from? Right? Like, I ain't come out there in no costume, no none of that, right? But also too, because of what I wore, Cardi was like, you got to be a star, right? Like, especially as a woman, like, you got to come on point. Like, I should be able to tell that you're a rapper, you know, on the street if I don't even know you, right? And essentially they were like, you know, you get very, you know, like homegirl, you know, around the way type vibes. But they were just like, you know, like, you got to show up, you know, ready to be a star, because this industry, they'll chew you up and spit you out, right? So I'm like, I'm literally on stage right now in something that, you feel me, I would wear it any other day, because at that time too, I also was still trying to find my personal style. And speaking of that, go tune into the previous episode if you haven't already. But anywho, so in that moment, I'm just like, oh, okay, like I know it's gonna be a rap, like it's gonna be a no. So we get the Chance. He's like, so your name is American with 3 Ks, with 3 Ks in there, or whatever he said, something real snarky. And I'm like, in my head, like, what's funny? Right? Like, yeah, I know what my name is. Knowledge and kindness is key. That's what the 3 Ks stand for, right? Like, I'm taking something negative and I'm turning it into a positive. You feel me? Like, that's what I feel led to choose as my artist name. I knew it was going to be a point in conversation, and it wasn't like I was just ignorantly choosing its name, but some actual thought went into it. So while you sitting here trying to clown me for my name, yeah, the 3 Ks mean knowledge and kindness is key. So in my head, I'm like, I know you're not sitting here trying to clown me for my name. So of course I'm gonna stand my ground. I'm like, yeah, this is what the 3 Ks stand for. And I remember when I had immediately shot back, like, yeah, while you sitting here trying to make a joke out of it, there's a meaning behind my name. I remember it's Tip. I'm like, T.I. Tip. He had like nodded his head. Like, he like, I respect it. He like, you came at her, she came at you right back. Like, I could tell Tip was one who actually like respected, you know, how I was coming. He just was like, you know, I can just tell like a different way of how you coming will work for you, essentially. He's like, you know, you only got one chance to, you know, prove yourself to people, right? Like, immediately people not gonna get it. And that's what you just got to know and remember, basically. So when, you know, Chance didn't get it and he came for me and I came for him right back, Tip was like, shorty got it. Like, I respect what, you feel me? Like, she came out here standing on that. So I also too was like, what you mean, like, you couldn't hear me? So I kind of was like on that, like, can you elaborate on that, right? Because I'm like, y'all not finna sit here and play in my face, right? At that time, I was a very defensive person too. So I'm like, even though it's TV, like, y'all ain't finna play me, you feel me? So I came back at Chance, Chance looked at me too, and he like, okay, you got it. She got a meaning. I don't got nothing else to say. Mind you, though, that's the only thing he said. It wasn't no comment on my performance, at least not to my knowledge. Y'all can go and play back the clip, but I remember it was just the whole thing, ordeal about my name. So, boom, celebrity guest judge, Snoop. This man high as a kite. He like, hey, I hear all of what they saying, but that was hard. I don't remember exactly what he said, but Snoop, he was feeling it. And I'm like, Snoop just give me vibes of I'm rocking with anybody because I'm just here vibing, right? Like that's the vibe that I got from Snoop. Snoop was like, hey, he was like, I mean, like, I was hearing what they were saying, it was, some good advice, I recommend you, taking heed to it, but he like, you got it. He like, you got it, you feel me? And I even, respect the fact that, you do have a meaning with the name. Like, Snoop kind of was what Tip was on. He like, Shorty got it. I respect her. She was flowing. She hard, you feel me? But he like, obviously got the final say. So he like, I'm just here type vibe. So they all kind of look at each other. It all kind of falls back on Cardi, the person who said that they didn't hear a word I said. She's like, just keep going. Like, I just feel like you just aren't ready. But keep going, basically. So I get off stage. I'm trying to be a G, trying to fight back tears. Immediately after I get off stage, though, it's still cameras in my face. So they're like, how did you feel? How did you think your performance went? Do you agree with the judges? What did the judges say? And I'm sitting here like, bro, I'm gonna cry if y'all don't get this camera out my face. Because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm like, bro, now I gotta go back home and tell these people that it was a no. And I done dropped out. Like, I'm just like, bro. And then y'all sat here and played in my face. I feel like y'all just took me as a joke. And so I remember from there, I went back home and I just had this chip on my shoulder. So throughout that entire time so this was in January, right? January 2019, right? From January until October, I just remember I was just especially with me not being in school, right? Like, I got all this time on my hands. I remember I just started dropping freestyle, remix, right? I just had this chip on my shoulder. I was like, oh, okay, y'all think I'm a joke. So I also became known as not only the girl that was rapping on campus, but the girl that's going viral every other freestyle on Instagram and Twitter. So by the time the show actually debuted, I had also dropped my first project. I had my first headlining show. That was my first time performing at Trees. If you know, you know. Like, it was just this momentum that was building. So it wasn't even like, I'm about to sit around and wait to see if, I'm, featured on the show, when I already know, like, okay, y'all just sat here and played in my face. Okay, cool, whatever. So I'm going on with my life. But I remember they had reached out, like, closer towards the debut of the show, and they were like, thank you again for being a part. If you're receiving this email, you are featured, in the show in some sort, right? So you are clear to help promote the trailer and, all of the things. So I remember I had posted the trailer, just hinting at the fact that I was a part of the show. But I'm also too, like, I got a feeling y'all about to clip up that part with Chance and y'all about to play in my face. So I'm also too anxiously like, how are y'all about to show me on this show? And I literally remember the night before the show debuted, I had broke my phone. I had dropped my phone and the screen had cracked internally. So it was just nothing but like colors and static. Like, you know how it be. So I'm like, bro, I don't even got a phone. And this is the night before the show was debuting. And I remember at this point, I'm back on campus because school had started back in August. So school started back in August. Treese was in August. I had my show, my first headlining show that I put together myself in September. Dropped my first project in September. October, boom, the show was debuting. So I'm back on campus and I can't go back home and get my phone fixed until like that following weekend. So I'm without a phone for a good little minute, y'all. Like, people blowing up my phone and everything whole time. Like, I'm seeing it, but I can't respond to it. Like, I can't actually like click through my phone. So I remember at that time, I'm like, let me watch this show. I'm like anxiously like, you know how you like tuning into a show for the first time, but you about to be a part of the show? You probably don't know the feeling. But like, you know, it was just this excitement of, okay, it's this new show. Like, I really just want to watch the show. And then too, because I know I didn't make it that far in the competition, I'm like, okay, cool, boom. Now I can just enjoy watching this show, you know, just as a spectator, right? Like, I enjoy watching that type of stuff regardless, right? Like American Idol, all of that. But it was like this layered, like, oh my God, like, I'm excited to watch this show, but I'm like nervous because, like, I'm a part of this show and I don't know what I'm finna see. So when I saw what I saw, I said, like, I just shook my head, but I was just like, thank you, God. Thank you, God, because that's not an opportunity that many people get. And like I said, I still recognize that opportunity for what it was. Like, it was confirmation for me, you know, that my dreams are within reach. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Like, that really was like the battery in my back to be like, oh, okay, boom, I'm finna wake y'all up. This is who I am. This is what I do. So by the time the show had debuted, it was like, it was already this momentum going, you know, because I had dropped my first project and that was anticipated. Like, I was known around the city and I hadn't actually dropped a project yet. So the project was received really well. I remember when I performed at Treats, if you know, you know, this was Square Cat when it was still that shoebox layout. This was before they expanded. Square Cat was packed for me. I'm like, dang, y'all packed for me. It was just this crazy momentum. So by the time the show had actually debuted, I kind of was annoyed because I'm just like, bro, I know how they portrayed me and I know how that situation went, and that situation was a year ago. So I'm kind of just like, bro, I just want to move past this. But it was still a big moment because I was a part of this show. So that opened up the door for, you know, even more opportunities that came for me, or, you know, to me as an artist. But of course, because of how they portrayed me, because of, you know, her name is American, you know, I'm a joke, right? Of course, there was discourse online. People who don't know me, like, there was so many tweets, bro. And I just remember it was people who personally know me and, you know, they rock with my music. They going back and forth with people on Twitter, like, y'all don't even know her. Da, 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 da. She actually got a meaning with her name. She actually talking about something y'all in her music, and y'all got female rappers out here talking about da 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 da. They ain't even talk about nothing. I just remember it was just hella people. I'm seeing with no phone using other people's phones. It was some people who really was like going hard for me, sticking up for me, like, nah, like, y'all actually need to get into Shorty, she's hard, you know. But I just remember it was just this whole thing. This was my first time, even though I had went viral a few times and it was good. Like, people was tuned into the fact that I was rapping. It was like, I don't get the name, but Shorty can rap, right? At that point, like, that was my first time really receiving as many eyes as I had on me and really receiving backlash. Like, people was dragging me for my name. And I remember it was a few people here in the city that I don't even know, but they like, she got on there and she made us look bad. If you know that the KKK originated in Indy, like, why would you even go on there and make us out to be a joke like that? Like, it was so many people that was just like, they called me a coon. It was all type of comments, y'all. And I remember, like, because I wanted to keep up with what everyone was saying, it was starting to get to me. And I was like, dang, like, whole time though, I kind of saw it coming. Right? Like, I knew my name was going to be controversial. And that's part of the reason why I chose the artist name that I did. It was the name that I truly felt led to, right? I had a meaning behind it, but I also knew that it was going to be controversial. Whole time though, when you're a new artist and you're trying to put yourself out there and separate yourself and you want people to talk about you, I knew what I was doing. I knew that the name was going to be a part of that. But I didn't know the whole Netflix situation and me being thrusted into a position where more people around the world are like tuned into me. I didn't know that was going to happen as soon as it did. So it was still a lot for me to like process and like take in. And to make a long story short, after that, I'm like, well, I mean, I made it on Netflix. Y'all didn't. Like, I was very like arrogant, like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, whole time too, I'm like, this was a whole year ago, whole time. Like, I'm past this for real. But shout out to the people who support me, because I felt the love more than I felt the hate. I'm not even gonna lie, right? I was just like, okay, I just know I just need to get off Twitter, because regardless, you feel me? Like, I have y'all attention now. That's what I wanted. And so I just kept doing me. I just kept popping it. And I remember like some time after that, eventually Chance the rapper ended up sliding in my DMs on Twitter, and he apologized and he followed me. I believe we still follow each other to this day, if I'm not mistaken. But when I say I had went viral like hella times too, and so now at this time I got follows and cosigns from, you know, celebrities that I actually like, you know, respect. They were reaching out, they like, man, they did you dirty on that show, like, but you feel me, like you held it down, like, you feel me, you got my respect even more. Like, I had, you know, moments like that too. So I'm like, man, my favorite rappers know who I am, like, and follow me. Like, I'm not finna listen to y'all, you feel me? So I just remember, you know, I just kept going, and eventually, like, it still became this thing that was a conversation on Twitter. And I remember it was a very specific conversation. Oh my gosh, shout out to B was like, yeah, I saw him at a I think he was at an industry party or something. I have a homie that's in LA. He like, yeah, I saw Chance and da-da-da. I don't remember exactly what the conversation was, but eventually, you feel me, like Chance had ended up being tagged in the conversation. So it was this whole thing. Whole time, I'm like, y'all, like, can we please stop talking about this and moving on from it? I'm not saying nothing, but Chance is inserted into this conversation and he sees everything. So he DMs me. He's like, hey, you feel me? I don't know who your people is, you feel me? Like, I know what situation they referring to. Like, yeah, I was at this event, you know, da-da-da. Because it was a whole, like, separate conversation that ended up panning out that led Chance to apologize. And he's like, you know, that wasn't my intention. It wasn't my intention for, you know, the whole discourse online to be, you know, what it was. And, you know, he essentially took, you know, accountability. He's like, you know, I know I have to be more responsible with, you know, my platform. I didn't know that they were going to clip it up like that. That was not my intentions. I just thought that you just had a very interesting name, and, you know, it is controversial, you know, like, when you got 3 Ks in your name, like, what you mean by that, right? And so he's like, but, you know, I did respect the fact that you had a meaning behind it. And, you know, he just was like, it's love, you feel me? Like, we both from the Midwest, like, it's love, like, you feel me? You got your people online dragging me, and I'm like, hey, bro, you feel me? You said what you said. You knew this was going to be on TV. I'm not finna step in and, you feel me, tell them to get off of that because they my people and they defended me. But I'm more so just observing, like, okay, y'all, like, this was kind of a minute ago. Like, I'm past it. But I remember, you know, it was still just a conversation that other people were having, and it was still being brought to his attention. So eventually it led to Chance and I having a conversation about it. But yeah, and then, mind you too, y'all, like, this was 2019. It's now 2024. I kid y'all not, though. I think maybe like a year or two ago, this was maybe like 2022. I remember that same clip that they showed in the show of my audition. I remember somebody had posted that on TikTok and it went viral. And somebody was like, yeah, she still raps. She just changed her name. So I don't know who it was, but like, I ended up being tagged into this TikTok somebody had made of that same clip going viral. Mind you, this was 2019. I'm like, I was past this before y'all even saw it debut, right? But I remember, like, recently, maybe like in the past year or two, a TikTok had went viral and somebody was like, yeah, she still raps, she changed her name though. So then it became this thing of, oh, you changed your name because of Chance and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, whole time, like, I'm just growing and evolving as a woman, as an artist, you feel me? I just felt like it was time for me to change my name. And I have explained why I changed my name before. I've done a whole podcast episode about that if y'all also want to go tune into that too. But yeah, like, it wasn't because of Chance. Long story short, I had got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm finding myself more as an artist. Mind you, like I said too, I had just started rapping, y'all, but I was finding myself more as an artist. I was finding my sound. I'm like, okay, the name that I currently have, it doesn't match the aesthetic that I'm now going for. And it also too just became annoying, feeling like my name itself was more of a conversation than my music. It was like, okay, we're not even talking about my music no more. We just stuck on my name. And it was really, like, hindering me because I'm like, I want y'all to talk about the music, but it was more so like, the thing that's more important is the name. The whole time, the name itself is not the more important thing, you know? So it also just got to that point too where I'm like, okay, like, that's not even who I am anymore. I'm about to change my name and rebrand. And I explained the whole reason why. But of course, you know, you just got trolls and, you know, people on the internet who not keeping up with you. They just like, oh yeah, she changed her name because of Chance. I'm like, okay, like I'm just now changing my artist name, and that was how long ago? Okay, because I was standing on that. I said knowledge and kindness is key. I said what I said. I wrote a whole diss track, y'all. Knowledge and kindness is key. Stop playing with me. Stop playing with me and my name. I wrote a whole diss track, y'all. I'm like, I'm not even trying to capitalize off this moment for real on some, corny, but that's my name. That's who I am. Like, stop playing with me. I said what I said. So I was standing on it for a good little minute. Then it had just got to the point where I'm like, okay, this is real old. This is real tired. I'm changing. I'm growing. I'm evolving. That's not even who I still am, So I remember a TikTok recently went viral, and somebody I don't even know was in the comments talking about I recently did a show with her, and she's real prideful and arrogant. I was trying to give her some advice and tell her she's not going to go far with that name, and she didn't want to listen. So I think it was an opportunity for her to be humbled. And I remember it was this whole comment, and I'm like, bro, who are you? You know how you can get on a viral TikTok and then see like the top comment with the top likes? I remember, bro, kid y'all not, I'm sitting here like, bro, who are you? And I kid y'all not, like, right up to God, this really happened. Like, I was still in Atlanta at the time, because the past 2 years of my life was spent in Atlanta. I remember I was in Atlanta around who I was around. They like, Ken, get off TikTok. You know who you are. You know where you at and what you got going for yourself. Like, Ken, get off TikTok. But I'm like, man, y'all got me. I'm over here like mad all over again. Because at first it was just people calling me coons and they didn't understand the name. And I was just like, oh, okay, cool, right? Like, I'm still going to stand on it. But the fact that this is going viral again years after the fact, and you got somebody really in the comments on TikTok, because TikTok is like the new thing now, right? Like, TikTok is a new level of going viral. It really blew me that it was somebody in the comments saying what they said, and I'm just like, bro, who are you? But anywho, I had just dropped my album at the time, and I was just like, yep, would love to have y'all attention. But yeah, so I don't know what else to say. I remember though, I did have another friend at the time, the friend that I had initially told the opportunity about too. He was happy for me. But I remember I had another friend, I had fell out with them because they were like, okay, now you're just dragging it and you're milking it. You acting like you made it further than what you did. Like, that opportunity did show people's true colors. Like, people who wasn't paying me no mind, now all of a sudden because they see I'm on Netflix, they whole time, you feel me, it really wasn't, you feel me, as much as y'all probably thought it was. But I saw in real time how people who wasn't giving me the time of day now wanted to have conversations. But then it was people who I thought was friends, I thought were supporters. I'm like, dang, y'all really hating. That's crazy, right? You mad because there's hella people online talking about me, whether it's good or bad, and now you about to join the discourse of people dragging me for my name. Okay, like, you was just looking for an opportunity, right? But yeah, if I sounded like I was all over the place, I'm just like, bro, this is my first time actually like reliving this and like telling this. And I feel like the enemy was also trying to keep me from, you feel me, getting this part of my testimony out, because the camera kept stopping, the battery was dying, and yeah, but we got through it. That's the story. Like I said, the main takeaway was your dreams are within reach. God can do the impossible, and God will definitely confirm to you in ways that will blow your mind that you are exactly where you need to be. And I believe that opportunity was just a taste of what's to come, because I've always known that, I have a voice and I have influence. Like, I have that call on my life where I'm gonna be in places where I need to have thick skin, right? And so that was just like a taste of like, okay, this is what's coming, right? Like, your whole life might not change in this moment in the way that you think it's going to, because you're not ready yet. And when I reflect on that, I was not ready, right? But I do believe that was just a taste of, what's to come, whether that's through the music or this podcast or whatever. I don't know what God has for me, right? But I know where God currently has me. I know that was just a stepping stone in my story. That moment did do a lot for me as an independent artist, and still to this day, years later, it's something that people still, you feel me, come to me and want to have conversations about. And for the longest, I kind of was like trying to separate myself from that, that's why I had felt some type of way when I fell out with that friend, because I'm like, you feel like I'm milking, and this was a part of my resume, right? Like, this is something that a lot of artists don't even, you feel me, like, this was a big opportunity for me, regardless of how it panned out. So then it had got to the point where I'm like, okay, I feel like the conversation surrounding this opportunity is a conversation that's in a negative light. So I remember at a certain point, I actually wanted to get away from it. And it started to become annoying to me when people kept asking me about it. And I'm like, bro, I'm tired of talking about this, right? But as I've matured, as I've grown, I'm like, that's still a part of my testimony. It's still something, a part of my resume. It's still something that I'm proud of, because, and I'm grateful for, because it did help open a lot of doors for me since then. And again, that was an opportunity that a lot of artists do not get. God is God. I know that that's not the end. I know that there's even greater opportunities in store for me. And I'm also just at a place now where I'm just embracing more of what is on my resume. Like, yeah, I did that. That's who I was, right? Like, I'm not trying to get away from it anymore. I'm not, quote unquote, milking it anymore. But, you know, I just took this opportunity to just share more of the story and the experience, because I actually did not get a chance to do that. Or, I mean, I had the chance, pun intended, to tell the story, but I just was like, man, I'm gonna just let this music talk. that was my whole thing. Yeah. Thank y'all for tuning in. I know I was yapping, but if y'all have any more questions, I tried to not forget anything, but I also wanted to not make this too long. If y'all have any specific questions, please let me know. Drop them in the comments below. And yeah, thank y'all. I love y'all. Bye.